Well, Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency because of fires that have burned throughout the area, and we now take him live in Butte County.
Absolutely. The data is self-evident. The experience that we have in the state of California just underscoring the reality of the ravages of climate change. And when I talk about the challenges here in Butte County, it's not lost on anyone who lives up here. The 200,000 people that were evacuated a few years ago in 2017 related to the spillway here on the Lake Oroville Dam, where we had to evacuate because of the massive amount of water and the runoff into the lake, where the lake was overflowing because, again, of the acuity of extremes, because of the climate. And so we say this often, and I'll say it again: the hots are getting a lot hotter, the dries are getting a lot drier, and the wets are getting a lot wetter. That's climate change. That's what the scientists predicted. That's the reality that we're experiencing here in the state of California. We have to own that reality, and we have to own a response to that reality. And one thing that's crystal clear to me, good enough never is. In the state of California, while it's led as it relates to climate change, we've got to step up our game. While we have audacious goals, while we're leading the nation in low carbon green growth, as we've led the nation in our efforts to decarbonize our economy, we're going to have to do more. And we're going to have to fast track our efforts. Well, it's nice to have goals to get to 100% clean energy by 2045. That's inadequate to meet the challenges the state, and I argue this nation, faces. We're going to have to fast track our efforts. We're going to have to be more aggressive in terms of meeting our goals much sooner. And I have tasked now our administration, led by two members to my right, Jared Bloomfeld, who runs the EPA in the state of California, and Wade Crowfoot, who runs our resource agency, to go down in every prescriptive goal that the state has, to go down that list and to dust off our current processes, our current strategies, and accelerate all of them across the board in terms of the work we're doing to not just broadly decarbonize our economy, but to specifically adapt strategies to get more electric vehicles out on the street, and to electrify our transportation, to focus on our land use efforts in this state in a much more dynamic and deliberative manner, to look at our soils policies in the state of California, our industrial and agricultural policies in the state of California. Across the entire spectrum, our goals are inadequate to the reality we're experiencing. Mother Nature's three things have been said by many people. Mother Nature is physics, biology, and chemistry. She bats last, and she bats 1,000. That's the reality we're facing, this smash mouth reality, this perfect storm. The debate is over around climate change. Just come to the state of California. Observe it with your own eyes. It's not an intellectual debate. It's not even debatable any longer. What we are experiencing, the extreme droughts, the extreme atmospheric rivers, the extreme heat. Just think, in the last few weeks alone, we've experienced the hottest August in California history. We had 14,000 dry lightning strikes over a 3-day period. We're experiencing temperatures, world record breaking temperatures in the state of California, 130 degrees, arguably the hottest recorded temperature in the history of mankind in the state of California just a few weeks ago. We had 121 degree temperatures in LA County. Burbank Airport, 114 degrees. It was 103 degrees in one part of the state of California at 3 in the morning. You've seen the images now strewn across the rest of the globe, these orange glows, the quarter-inch thick snow that is these ashes that are falling hundreds of miles away from these fires that we are experiencing north California, 800 miles down to southern part near the border of Mexico. 28 active large-scale fires that the state of California is currently battling. 14,600 firefighters currently battling those wildfires. Mutual aid coming from every local municipality, and mutual aid coming from around the world. We had firefighters come in from Israel. I was talking to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, sending firefighters from Canada. We're reaching out to partners. I was talking to Governor Murphy yesterday from New Jersey. New Jersey is sending engines out here on the west coast of the United States to the state of California. We have Utah and Texas. Montana has helped out. Obviously, Oregon and Washington. Not only are we receiving mutual aid from Oregon and Washington, we're going to need to reciprocate and provide mutual aid in Oregon and Washington. They're also dealing with record-breaking fires and loss of property. Economic impacts. If you say, all right, well, this is a health issue perhaps with the air we breathe and the air quality, perhaps this obviously has an impact in terms of the quality of life. How about the economic consequences? Just ask the folks here in Butte County, $2.2 billion just to clean up the debris related, to the Camp Fire. $2 billion just to clean up the debris. I don't know, I need to emphasize it a fourth time. The economic consequences of our neglect. You want to know the cheapest way to deal with this is to invest in the future, to invest in a low-carbon, green growth future, to decarbonize our economy, to change the way we produce and consume energy. It is the cheapest way to go. The biggest cost is in our neglect. The biggest cost is not accelerating and fast-tracking our low-carbon strategies. And by the way, California is doing that 5 to 1. We have more green jobs than we do fossil fuel jobs. 5 to 1, not 2 to 1, 5 to 1. We're proving this paradigm. You can grow your economy, 3.8% average GDP growth in the last 5 years in the state of California as we move to accelerate the decarbonization of our economy. But again, it's not enough. And it's not enough to do it alone. The state of California doesn't live in an island. While it's the largest state in our union, it's not even large enough to have the consequences in terms of marking a greater impact in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And that's why we need to get other states on board. And I couldn't be more pleased, in particular, with our Pacific Coast Collaborative we have with Oregon and Washington and the leadership of Governor Brown, not just the current Governor Brown in Oregon, the previous Governor Brown in the state of California, and Governor Inslee up in Washington State. We've led a partnership not just in the Pacific Coast, but we also led a partnership in a U.S. alliance, 24 states plus California, 25 states that have come together, basically doubling down on the Paris Protocol. So as the rest of the nation moves in one direction, we are moving in a more enlightened direction. And I say we, that's 24 states plus the state of California. And that's impactful. Just think about California alone. This state, its population is larger than the 163 nations that signed up on the Paris Protocols. There are 196 nations. California's population alone is larger than 163 nations. So we want to punch above our weight. We want to continue to punch above our weight, but we're going to need more people coming on board. We're involved in dozens and dozens of lawsuits against an administration that doesn't see eye to eye with us on this. And rather than lamenting about it, we'll continue to fight in the courts. We'll continue to win, as we are overwhelmingly, against the rollbacks of the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, and continue to make a case. Not even make a case, just prove what we've been asserting, that these efforts will save taxpayers money, that will lower the cost of consuming energy, that will inure to building more resiliency in our environment and allow us to leave something a little bit better than this to our kids and grandkids. People that want to roll back vehicle emission standards so you could spend more money at the pump and produce more greenhouse gas emissions to create more of what you see around me, that's beyond the pale of comprehension. We're fighting against that, and we'll prevail as long as more people come to this cause. And so I guess, forgive me, I'm being a little bit long-winded, but I'm a little bit exhausted that we have to continue to bait this issue. This is a climate damn emergency. This is real, and it's happening. This is the perfect storm. It is happening unprecedented ways, year in, year out. And you can exhaust yourself with your ideological BS by saying, well, 100 years ago we should have done this or that. All that may be true. And I'm not going to suggest for a second that the forest management practices in the state of California over a century plus have been ideal. But that's one point, but it's not the point. The reality here is the mega fires that we're experiencing come from these mega droughts that we've experienced. 150 dead trees, million dead trees in our forests in southern Sierras, beetle-infested forest, those mega droughts impacting the mega fires. There's something else going on, not just bad past practices over a century related to forestry. That said, we do recognize we have to do more in terms of prescribed burns. We do have to do more on vegetation management. We do have to do more on our forest management efforts. And by the way, the state of California is doing more than it's ever done in that space. 35 high-profile projects we got done. Would have taken it 10 years based upon previous past practices. We were able to get those things done in 15 months. These fuel breaks that you're seeing, these high-profile fuel breaks, including, by the way, just a stone's throw from here, efforts 5 years in a row to create fuel breaks that have actually saved a lot of property, potentially lives, just in this area. We recognize our responsibility to do more in that space as well. And we're doubling down on that still from what we did last year with a partnership with the federal government, the U.S. Forest Service, where we did a memorandum of understanding so we commit to the next few decades to do more in partnership to double the amount of acreage that we're covering through our forest management efforts. So we do recognize that, but that's not just the issue here in California, Washington, Oregon, and other western states. When you have a heat dome over the entire west coast of the United States, when you have temperatures, record-breaking temperatures, record droughts, then you've got something else at play. And that's exactly what the scientists have been predicting for a half a century. It is here now. California, folks, is America fast forward. What we're experiencing right here is coming to a community all across the United States of America unless we get our act together on climate change, unless we disabuse ourselves of all the BS that's being spewed by a very small group of people that have an ideological reason to advance the cause of a 19th century framework and solution. We're not going back to the 19th century. We're not apologists to that status quo. We believe in the fresh air of progress versus the stale air, emphasis, stale air, normalcy. And so that's California. We're going to leap in the future. We're going to accelerate our low-carbon green growth strategies. We're going to create more economic opportunity in this space, more resiliency, a sustainable mindset, and we're going to advance this cause in partnership with hundreds and hundreds of subnational and national leaders around the rest of the world. One of the great inheritance I received as the 40th governor of California is the work of the 39th in establishing an MOU under 2 protocol with 200 plus nations and governments, subnational governments around the world. That's leadership. We want to build on that work. The U.S. U.S. Alliance, Climate Alliance, we want to build on that. The Pacific Coast Collaborative, we want to build on that, and we want to build on the framework of our cap and trade program, build on the framework of all of these audacious goals on electric vehicles, all of our audacious goals on waste and diversion, and all our audacious goals as it relates to getting to 100% clean energy. But we've got to fast track all of that if we're going to, I think, be judged well in the future. Because right now, everything we've done has been adequate. Continue to do what you've done, you'll get what you got. And so that's why I'm here, a little more animated, explaining this to my 4 kids, my little 4-year-old who's, moved from talking about a novel coronavirus, actual language a 4-year-old uses, to now talking to me about what is going on outside and why you can't play around with a soccer ball outside. That's not the world I want to leave to my kids. It's not the world you want to leave to your kids. This is not a world that anyone should be experiencing, and we don't have to. Our decisions, not conditions, that will determine our fate and future. And so I'm very, very proud of California's leadership in the absence of national leadership, and I recognize our responsibility, again, to accelerate those efforts. So with that, I just want to ask Wade and Jared perhaps to either one of you come up, both of you, maybe amplify some of what I may have said and maybe talk a little bit more